So Todd, as a speaker, an author, and a truth teller, you have a lot of wisdom to share, and you've been doing this for quite some time. Many platforms, you've been on the radio, your book is now published. People want to know, before all of the research as an NDE researcher, before all of your understanding, before your wisdom and knowledge, who were you? Who were you before you came to know God? And was there a defining moment or something that happened to get you from where you were to who you became? Please share your story.
That is a very good question, and it's a tale that has lots of twists and turns. So I came to God, like many other people have, through times of hardship and sorrow, but also through ways that are very unique and special to my arrival. And I'll explain. So in 2013, I was going through a divorce. I was blindsided by it, and I was in a very down place. And the relationship with my ex-wife was good until that point. And we would get on she was very mean-spirited. So she'd found somebody else that she liked better, and she was very coarse to me on the phone a lot. She liked to push my buttons to hurt me. And every time I got on the phone with her, it was a rough situation, especially afterwards. And my dad, who was Christian, and he was very on the side of spirit. We'll say that, the Holy Spirit. Every time I get off the phone, he'd say, "You need God in your life, Todd. You need God in your life." And he would say this for days on end, weeks on end. You need God in your life. You need God in your life. And then one time, I just got off the phone with my ex, and I was getting on the treadmill for my daily jog on the treadmill. And my dad was sitting with the garage door open. It was in the garage, right? He was sipping on his coffee, and he goes, and he could tell I was heated from the situation, the conversation I just had with my ex. And he goes, "Hey, Todd, you need God in your life." And I was up to here already because of the state where I was for where she had put me emotionally. And I got on the treadmill, and I was pissed. I was angry. And at that moment, I was throwing a little tantrum. I started throwing a little tantrum. And I literally challenged God right there in front of my dad. Challenged God to take me. I said, "Do you want me, God?" I'm yelling this while I'm jogging. "Do you want me, God? Here I am. Come get me. You want me on your side? You want me? You want me? You want my body? You want my soul? Come get me." And I'm jogging at a good pace. Then all of a sudden, it hit all at once. I felt every neuron in my body start pulsating. And I felt the weight of my body being removed. I could feel weightless on that treadmill. My feet were still touching the ground, but I weighed like 10 pounds. I didn't know how to explain it. And then tears of joy just started pouring down my face. I still remember like it was yesterday. It was so long ago. And tears started pouring down my face. And I was just ugly crying. It lasted about 20 seconds. Then all of a sudden, it all stopped, and all my weight came back, and all the tingles went away. And I turned off the treadmill, and I stepped back off the treadmill, and I'm like, "What was that?" And my dad took a sip of coffee, and he goes, "That was God." I'm like, "Oh, all right. So God is real. Darn it. I bet on the wrong horse. I'm not religious, right?" And I told my dad, I said, "I'm not religious. Why has God picked me?" And my dad goes, "You're going to do great things for our Lord." So I'm like, all right. So I did what any good believer of God does, and I went to church. I got myself a Bible, and I went to church. And at first it was okay. You know, we're learning about God and learning about Jesus and learning about this, that, and the other. And then things started showing themselves. I realized that not everybody at that place was walking the walk. They knew how to talk the talk. They couldn't walk the walk. They weren't there. And they were so mean to each other. They were so cliquish and so, you know, mean-spirited towards each other, especially when another person left the room. And I was like, this is not good. And then it all came to a head. I arrived at the church, and I think it was Bible. It was Bible study that night, and no, it wasn't Bible study. It was Sunday.
Yeah, it was Sunday.
It was Sunday, and I come rolling in, and there's a gentleman there at the church who was frail. He was like 120 pounds. He walked with a cane. He was there every Sunday, every Saturday. For men's study. He was there for every Bible service, every extracurricular activity. He was there. Mm-hmm. And he hugged every single person every single time. Kindest, gentlest man you'll ever see. Mm. He had a horrible back. And his back gave him so much pain. And he prided himself that he was an usher. He got to be an usher. He got to be part of the service. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, what happened was he was taking lots of medications. He was taking opioids, and they were helping with the pain, but his bowels stopped working. So the doctor prescribed him marijuana for his pain instead, so his bowels could start repairing themselves. Mm-hmm. And the church got a hold of that, and they said, you're a drug addict now, and you can no longer be an usher in our church. And he was out there crying, just bawling his eyes out. And I felt so bad for him. I was like, oh my God, they're judging you for how you're taking care of your pain. So I went into service, and that Sunday's lecture or speech was on how we're not supposed to judge others. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you hypocrites, I'm done with you. I'm done with this church. I'm out. And on the drive home, I got mad. I got mad at God. I said, I came here to find out about you, and I got nothing but disappointment. And I started getting angrier and angrier as I was driving home. And I remember punching the ceiling of my truck, punching it, saying, I want to know everything. I want to know how you work. I want to know how the afterlife works. I want to know what our purpose here is. What are we supposed to be doing? I don't want some obscure passage somewhere. I want to know the nuts and bolts of God, life, and the afterlife.
And you knew that what you had experienced in church so far was not it.
Was not it.
It was the opposite of what you were
Wasn't
looking for.
what I was looking for.
No.
I wanted answers. Mm-hmm. So, needless to say, I went home. That was a Sunday. 3 days later, on a Wednesday, I come home from work, and my mom's like, hey, you want to go get some Mexican food down the corner? I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do that. And we went to the Mexican restaurant, and as we're walking in, a friend of mine from high school is walking out. Somebody I hadn't seen in 20 years. And I'm like, oh my God, it's you. He's like, yeah, it's you. And he introduced us to his wife and all that stuff, and then his wife went home, and he said, will you give me a ride home? I'm like, yeah, sure. So we sat there and drank a margarita and chit-chatted, and I didn't tell him what I had said or what I asked, what my prayer was to God, what my request was. He just all of a sudden said, hey, Todd, he goes, I'm spiritual. He goes, you should check out this near-death experience testimonial. Somebody had died momentarily, been resuscitated, and came back. And they gave testimony of what they saw and experienced. And I was like, okay, I'll check it out. So I think I went home that night and checked it out. And I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I asked for. They had answers. Not all the answers, but some of them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, well, they're giving answers here. What else is there to know? Mm-hmm. So I started going to other testimonials and other testimonials and other testimonials. And I'm like, these testimonials are matching up. They're saying the same thing. And each one adds a little piece to the puzzle. And I'm like, oh my gosh, but this is pre-internet when these testimonials were created. Where I made my start was finding the testimonies that were already documented and were put on the internet, but they were created before the internet. So the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s.
So it was like the history
of NDE testimonials.
Yeah.
And that's where I started. Oh. And I realized these people don't know each other. They couldn't have known each other. They're in different countries, different continents, different decades, different religions, and they're all saying the same thing. So it gave validity to what they were saying.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and delved deeper and deeper and deeper into it. Then I would have people that would ask questions just out loud. And I was able to give answers that they didn't know. The very first question I got asked was, is everything predetermined or do we have free will? And I said, it's real simple. I said, God knows all potentials, but does not know what potential you'll be choosing for yourself. They're like, oh, that makes sense. It's both. Then I told them, hey, you should check this place out, this place out, this place out, and all this information's right there for you. And he's like, all right. So a week later, I come back to him. I said, hey, did you check that stuff out? He goes, yeah, I did. There's too much information. It was way too much because I had been doing it for, at that time, 5-6 years already. So I already had developed an understanding that was pretty robust. And he goes, it's easier to ask you. And I'm like, so I'm like, ding. All right. I have to start helping people understand what's on the test, what they're going to be required to know and understand, so that they can perform well here and perform well when they get back home. Because unbeknownst to all people, all souls go back home. What we have here is a classroom for learning and experiencing. And we all return back home because as God experiences through us, our experiences are assimilated back to source. Or God, however you want to say it. And I want to help people realize what they're held accountable to and why. And it's really, God's system is beautiful and it's perfect. And it keeps everybody in check. So everybody thinks it's God's plan, but it's not God's plan. It's our plan. And God facilitates it for us. We just use God's system. So God has a system where we come here, learn A, B, and C, X, Y, and Z, and then we go back home and see how we did under those circumstances. And then we come back and try again different situations. So we learn unconditional love and compassion. And we have unique experiences that are unable to have on the other side of the veil. We can't eat pizza in heaven because we don't consume energy the same way. So there's only unique experiences we can have here. Nobody lives and dies on this side of the veil. We always live. So here we can actually have death and have that sorrow. So there's a lot of things that we can do here we can't do back home because of our situation to where we're separated from source. So when I started writing this book and doing the podcasts, you were integral in helping me do that, and I appreciate that very much. But now I'm to a situation to where it's more needed than necessary at any time in history of what we need to be doing, because with the powers that be, we are sliding backwards towards fear, judgment, and punishment instead of love, compassion, and acceptance. And I'm trying to get my message out as much as possible. And in the end, everything works out. But that's if the people that are in the know make an effort to help those who are not in the know.
Because when we know better, we do better.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So after all of your research and all of your studying for the last 12 plus years. What have you come to realize that people are still missing about God?
Okay. There's quite a few things. So God is omnipresent, but people don't realize how omnipresent God really is.
I think we need to break down what that means for some people.
Omnipresent.
Yeah.
Being in everything. So I've given this talk many times. This pen is made of atoms. These atoms exist because of energy that was created by God to make the vibration happen. So these atoms vibrate. The vibration needs an energy source. God is that energy source. God's in the pen. God's in the ink. God's in the paper. God is in you. God is in your lungs, in your oxygen that you have in your lungs, in the food in your stomach. It's in everything. It's in your hair. It's in your nails. It's everywhere. God knows all thoughts, all intent, and all actions. And the moment you took your first breath, they hit record. They hit record. There's no place you can go where God does not feel you and know what you're doing. Sorry, Trump. So when we realize that we're held accountable to how much we loved each other, not how much we judged each other, then people start to rethink how they approach their life every single day. Because when people realize that when you choose love, you choose God. When you choose other things, and that's one of the things that I like to talk about, is a lot of the Christians think that they're the ones on the right side of God. I'm like, but the Christians are the ones that are falling into all the pitfalls of this 3D reality. They're falling into the constructs of guns over love, nationality over love, religion over love, ethnicity over love, sexual orientation over love, and most importantly, money over love. When you get back home, you're judged on how much you loved others, not how much you loved those other things, how much you actually showed love. So when the younger souls put emphasis on all these man-made things, they have a rude awakening when they get back home. And a lot of people think, well, I pray to Jesus and Jesus is going to save me. And it doesn't work that way. Jesus was a teacher of love, not a vehicle for avoidance. When you go through your past life review, because don't forget, the moment you take your first breath, God hits record. When you go through your past life review, not even your ego gets to go with you. Your soul goes by itself. From the moment you take your first breath to the moment you take your last breath, it's all played back on how much you loved others. Because when you love another human being, God feels that. And when you go back home, you feel that. And when you are not kind to another human being, God feels that. And you get to feel it too. You get to feel how you interacted with the world. And unfortunately, all these people that are falling into all these pitfalls are learning the hard way. So they become the things they fear the most. So if you fear this ethnicity, that's where your soul needs to go to develop itself towards unconditional love. And you move to that ethnicity. You're incarnated into that ethnicity. You don't like people from that country, you go to that country. You don't like people of sexual orientation, your soul is going to incarnate into the opposite gender so they can learn. So you won't feel comfortable in your own skin. So you're part of the LGBTQ plus community. This is how it works. God's system is perfect. We just didn't realize how it worked before, but now we do. And when people realize the big picture rewards those who are kind and loving, and indirectly punishes people who are not. God doesn't punish you. You punish yourself, because when you go through your past life review, you get to feel what God felt. God doesn't make you feel it. You feel it. You feel your own interactions. And karmically, everybody's kept in check. Mm-hmm. So once the billionaire, next time's working in a sweat lodge, in a sweat factory. So that's one of the things we have to realize, is that There's no money on this side of the veil. If you exploit people, you'll be exploited. If you hurt people, you'll be hurt. It's on your karmic cycle. This is how a young soul becomes an old soul that has love, compassion, and acceptance. It learned the hard way. And unfortunately, we have a lot of young souls in charge right now. And when it comes right down to it, we need a readjustment of old souls leading this country, our society, and the civilization that we've created.
And right when you said that, I was just thinking about, your mission and purpose and how things have changed over the last 12 plus years. You started with you started on this quest for knowledge for yourself. And then the more you had your awakening deeper and deeper, and you were living this truth and walking this walk and knowing this, everything that you know and understanding, you felt this urge to share.
Right.
How has that changed from then until now?
You know what? It actually, it's gotten worse for me, because the brazenness of the cruelty that we're experiencing now with, I'll say it, the regime that we have now, the amount of people that are hurt, and a lot of people applaud it because they're not the same ethnicity, they're not the same religion, not the same country, so it's okay because they're not real humans. It's like, no, every human on this planet is an experiencer for God. And to see people making these mistakes, and the people that are put in positions to commit this hatred, to commit this pain to others, are going to feel it immensely, no matter what Donald Trump says.
Right.
And that's the problem, is Donald Trump ain't going to be there to save you when you have to go through your passive review and you killed all these people on the command.
Right. There's no construct of the ego
Right.
that is going with you onto the other side
Right.
of the veil.
You can't say, well, I was an American, I defended my country. There's no countries on the other side of the veil.
There's no justification.
There's no justification. You're just a human being that fell into the trap of these people are lesser because they're not from the same piece of ground you're from.
And really, we can look at the truth that the soul's development is very long.
Yes.
And there's always time.
There's always time.
However, when you know better and you have that urge to do better, you feel called to assist the masses in any way that you can.
Right.
And I know that you have this urge because on this side of the veil, you get to be Todd
Yes.
for a finite period of time.
Yes.
Even though your soul's journey is infinite.
Yes.
You get to be Todd sharing as you do for this lifetime.
For this lifetime. And I feel like I have so much work to do
I know.
in explaining to the masses there is no justification for hatred or cruelty. When you get back home, every decision that you made with your ego here doesn't play out well for you on the other side of the veil.
And think about that in terms of retaliation or
Right.
revenge and things like that. If people need to change that mindset
Right.
of eye for an eye, well, they did it to me or they did it to them, so I must do it. You're
Right.
still keeping yourself in that
Right. That's
cycle.
why Jesus literally taught us, to turn the other cheek.
Right.
Because when you make decisions with your ego, it doesn't fare well.
Right.
Now we have a regime right now that's not even eye for an eye. He's all stab their eye before they can stab yours. And that's one level worse than eye for an eye. And that's the regime we have now. And it's not going to play well. Matter of fact, I have Donald Trump as the second worst past life review of anybody living on this planet right now, because of the amount of pain and suffering he's causing. It's going to be rough for him and his cohorts because they think, well, it's just my job. You chose the love of money over the love of another human being. And that's the bare knuckles of it. The bare facts is you chose the love of money over the love of another human. And that goes from the people that are right underneath Trump to the ones pulling the trigger. You chose the love of money over the love of another human. There is no, I was just doing my job. Here we let people slide because it was their job. But then it's the veil. You didn't have to take that vow. You didn't have to take that job. You were taking something different.
So is there one thing that you would like to tell young souls who have not quite understood yet?
Yes. A warrior is someone who was willing to commit violence to protect somebody they love. And in return, they have the violent act, but they also have the gratitude of the person they just saved in physical reality. The soldier is someone who's made to kill on command. Not because they're saving their grandmother that's drinking peach tea over on the patio. They're in another country killing on command. That is someone who's lost their soul. That's a soldier. Loss of soul. It doesn't bode well for them. That karmic debt belongs to them. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people with a lot of karmic debt right now because of leaders who will not choose love and peaceful ways of solving situations.
And as a true Christian without limits, I continue to pray in my own way for those lost souls.
Me too.
Knowing that they're not lost. They're younger, they're misguided, but they are too a representation of God.
Right. They are. And people will say, well, it doesn't count because they're not Christian. It's like every human on this planet has a soul, and every soul is an experiencer for God. Every person you hurt, no matter who it is, God feels it. Doesn't matter what religion they are, God feels it. And if God feels it, because of your actions, you feel it too.
Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
It's been a while since we've taken it way back to all those years ago. Before we close out, do you have any parting words that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I do. So all's not lost. We have a lot of old souls here. The younger generations have more old souls than young souls. We are terraforming this country and this planet. Only older souls aren't incarnating at this time. We're moving towards love, compassion, and acceptance and away from fear, judgment, and punishment. This is why you see the conservative movement losing votes, losing ground, losing momentum, and liberal, and even more so progressive ideas where people, older souls, have learned to overcome fear and want to treat people with equality and love and acceptance, no matter who they are, because they realize it's more important to love the God within that human being, that soul within that human being, than it is to choose laws of fear, anger, and hatred. So we are moving that direction. The young souls, the conservatives, will try to kick and scream and bite and punch to try to stay in control, but eventually they'll be washed away. That whole mentality will be washed away like a sandcastle on the beach. It just takes time. And right now, the tide is rolling in. So we're on our way to better days. When we have understanding of how things actually work, we have understanding how God's system works, and how our plans play out, then we start looking at the world differently and we start acting differently.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you again for everything that you've shared today. And I just want to also share my deep gratitude to you. I know that I've shared this with you over the course of these years that we've been working together, but by you sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom with me over the last 4 years or so, you have helped to validate. As a metaphysical practitioner, I've had a lot of interesting experiences that I didn't have a framework for because, like you, I went to church to try to find God. I went to, different places to find the truth. But I always had this inner knowing. I had this this innate wisdom within me. But like I said, I didn't have a framework for it. Right. I didn't have anything concrete or anyone to talk to about some of the experiences that I went through. But when you started to share some of the NDE stories with me and some of those understandings, like I said, it helped to confirm so much that I intuitively knew and the things that I experienced through my meditations. Right. So again, thank you so much because of you, because of your sharing, you have helped me to grow and develop as a soul and to help me to be a better human.
Thank you.
And a better woman and a better person. So I thank you for that.
You're welcome very much. Thank you. Thank you for listening and being open-minded enough to hear me.
Absolutely. And I don't think that I would have been able to get through some of the hardships that I've been through over the last couple of years if it wasn't for this understanding that I now have because of this firsthand knowledge. So thank you so much.
Thank you.